those overachievers, you know who you are, because you're the one right now not making eye contact. So nice with these tablecloths are fantastic. You're an overachiever, don't jump ahead. Just wait. There'll be a time, because you kind of need to see why we're doing what we're doing to get exactly what we need to happen. There are some things we're going to get to work with a lot of new product from Ranger, which is very, very exciting. And there's some tricks along the way that I've learned when I'm working with them that I wanted to share with you. So, we're ready to get started. Deep breath, breathe in, breathe out. Here we go. So, I want to start off by just talking about the project that we're creating. And this is really important. Paula Genie in the back, my creative coordinator, is someone that inspires me very, very much. She just has a way about taking the things that we do and putting them together in really cool ways. And I think it's important to understand that you can be inspired by everything. I think sometimes in our creative industry, you get really fixated on what's new, and more importantly, once something has happened, you don't look back, especially the season, right? When we get into Christmas, I think more makers are making for the holidays than anything else, because it's for gifts, it's for decor, it's for all of those things. But then once Christmas is over, you're like struggling for ideas. I don't know what to make. You can be inspired by any kind of holiday project. Paula made that little tag on the left, and she did this for a store challenge in Texas. And when I saw it, of course, I messaged her. I'm like, "That's the cutest tag. You get it back?" And she's like, "Well, I do get it back." I'm like, "I want one." So she made me one. She made me one and sent it. I have it right here. Great little tag. It was in my house at Christmas. But when I was working on the workshop, I thought, you know what? I think a really good thing, even though I want to use different product than what she used, I wanted to pretty much mimic the entire layout, the whole concept of it. So if you're a store owner and you're looking for class ideas, or if you're a blogger, you're a maker, and you're like, I don't know what to do, go back and look at all those seasonal projects that people shared and say, I love that project. Let me take anything every day and dress that same thing. And that's exactly what it is. When you see it side by side, it's exactly the same thing. It is the idea that she had. I just used everyday items. And I think that we all kind of struggle with that creative kickstart, even after the first of the year, because you're so good with the seasons and you're all that. Now it's just a blank slate. You're like, I have no ideas. Every idea I had, I used it at Christmas, right? That's okay. So I think this is also an important thing to remind your customers that those makers that bought all that stuff during the holidays and they don't know what else to do with it, they can certainly kick this over to an everyday project. So what we're going to do is we're going to break this project down into stages. I'm going to have you do things that will make no sense when we're doing them, but they will matter when we need them. All right? So here we go. We're going to start with the background. So for the background, these are the components that I need you to kind of out, which is going to be our base, which is going to be the Stampers Anonymous, etc. It's this thick board. It's kind of a paper board. You should have a piece of paper that's already cut to size. You should have 3 little pieces of ephemera. These exact 3 pieces. Those should be in your kit. You're going to want those. You want that little wood vignette panel. And you're also going to want a piece of that collage paper. Have all of that stuff at the ready. And what we're going to use on this is going to be your distress collage medium. It's going to be a little jar of that. And your collage brush. Just to kind of have that ready. Here's what we're going to do. Once we have all that ready, I'm going to take you through the first part of that. Again, don't do until you see 4 little pictures. That means go. It means it's your turn. When we work with distress collage medium and collage paper, the cool thing about collage paper is that it's this tissue paper that's kind of crunchy, that when it gets wet with a gel medium or glue, it can become translucent. In order to get that translucent, though, you need to have a wet enough layer of glue to go in from one side. Right? If your first layer is too dry and you put your paper down, it doesn't matter how much glue you put over the top, you're still going to get kind of those white patches, which is not the end of the world. But for people that want that paper to really have that full translucent look, you need to start with a wet enough layer. Now, anytime you tell a class, oh, we want to have a wet layer of glue, all of a sudden you channel icing a cake. And that's not where we're going. Okay? So we don't want to see this big lathering of wet. We just want to see that it's shiny. And the collage brush is great because it is a perfect bristle to apply glue in a very nice, consistent manner. We're going to see that it's a little bit white, but more importantly, it just needs to look wet. If it looks wet, it is wet. You're welcome. I know. Once we do that, you're going to take your collage paper and you're just going to lay it right over the top. You get what you get and you don't throw a fit. You're going to see that the paper is bigger than the vignette panel. So you don't need to match up a corner and all that. Just do your best. If for whatever reason it's a little wonky, embrace your wonkiness. We're going to cover most of this up, so kind of get out of your head. Then you're going to go in and you're going to apply a top layer, right? It's wet now, we've got the paper, and now we're going to apply a top layer. Our top layer is thinner than the base layer, but it's going to be enough that you're going to start seeing that paper kind of fuse onto that wood panel. Once you're done brushing it, it's going to kind of look like this. It's not going to be totally translucent, but you should be able to see some of that wood grain come through. Right? It's not like a transparency, but you should be able to see that. That's when you know you have enough, and you're simply going to sit there. Go. Just like that. Don't overthink it. Slap on the glue on the wood, layer paper on, layer on the top. You'll kind of get the feel. Just make sure that first layer is wet. That's all. And use the little jar. The jar is going to give you way more than the squeezy. I gave you a squeezy one too. We'll use that. Distress collage medium. Dip that brush in there. Just glue it on. Yep. Just know in the class as well, make sure it's Distress collage medium. But the way I do my classes, we go from clean to dirty. So if you're already worrying about wiping off your fingers, it's going to be a long 2 hours. We go from the cleanest thing to dirty. So brush it on to where it's shiny. Give yourself a nice layer. It's all right, as long as it's nice and wet. Lay that in there, and then brush a layer over the top. And what I love about Distress collage medium is that it can go on anything. You can apply this onto glass, onto metal, onto wood, onto fabric. If you come out of ideology booth, you'll see a great fabric journal that Paula did, where when you use collage paper and collage medium onto fabric, it actually almost dissolves into the fabric and looks like printed fabric. The fabric is still flexible, pliable. It's a pretty awesome medium. Don't worry about your brush or the glue on your brush or what to do or look for a bucket of water. Just, that's all you're doing. So far, so good? Excellent. That's the pace of the class. Moving on. So what we're going to do next is we're going to glue our tag. So let me take you through everything I need you to glue. Then you start. When we put collage medium onto this thick board, because this is paper-based instead of wood, it has a very quick absorbing time, right? So for this one, you want to work fairly quickly getting a layer of collage medium onto that thick board tag. There's no front or back to that particular tag. Once we have it completely covered with the layer, you're just going to place your paper down, press it down, and then have a dry paper towel at the ready. Dry paper towel is really nice because I can take that dry paper towel and use that to burnish my paper on there. It's going to do two things. It's going to quickly eliminate air bubbles, and also if you have any like glue pockets, that sometimes turn into blisters, it's going to push those glue pockets out around the edges. See that little glue around that reinforcer? It's just going to do that, and that's all right. Another cool feature of collage medium, it dries completely clear. So don't worry if you get anywhere that you don't want it, you won't notice later. So just glue on the tag, paper. Now, once you're done with that, you haven't done it yet, it's not 4 pictures, we're going to lay down those ephemera pieces, those 3 pieces. Where these are where they need to be, because the whole project is built around where we place these, all right? Don't get all funky on me this morning. Just going to do this. We're like, ooh, but Tim, I like it on the angle where it's hitting off the pieces. Nope. Okay. What we're going to do is you're just going to take collage medium and we're going to do this in a section, meaning in this upper area where this first piece of ephemera goes, I brush some collage medium. I put down that little piece of ephemera, paper towel, right? Just like we did the paper. Then I'm going to move on to this left side, little collage medium. I'm going to put that little button piece, paper towel, right? But that's, again, it's always going to press it out. And you're going to see collage medium has the drying time of now. Yeah. It's good. If you're one of those indecisive crafters where you want to lay it down and just kind of, this will help you with that. You'll be like, that's exactly what I wanted. Then you're going to take a little bit more collage medium just on that kind of void of the button piece, and you're going to glue that little stamp. Now notice at this point, we just glued. No top coat. Got it? Say that to yourself.
No top coat.
Okay, go for it. Glue. Glue onto the tag, piece of paper, paper towel, and down here is where your ephemera goes if you're looking for kind of that layout. So collage medium, paper, dry paper towel. The dry paper towel is very nice. Now the reason I have you put the collage medium on the board, a good tip is anytime you're gluing, always put the glue on the stronger substrate, right? If you put the glue on the back of the paper, that paper is going to start curling on you. It's kind of difficult to do. So anytime you're building a collage or an assemblage, always put your glue on the harder surface. It's just going to be the most durable. embrace your wonkiness. If your paper on your tag goes a
Embrace
little
your
crooked,
wonkiness. I love
that's
it.
all right. That's what ink is
Don't
for.
remind me of these things.
Cover it all
You
up.
hate wonky.
But I do love that paper towel trick. If you haven't worked with that before, it's really nice because it quickly smooths it out,
You hate wonky.
gets out any of those air bubbles, and it also pushes out any of that excess glue. It's a really nice, fast medium to work with. Now, if you get glue bigger than your ephemera area, that's okay, because we will end up doing a top coat, just not yet, because that's part of the process that I've learned. It's just a technique that I learned with the Oxide sprays. Happy accident. Because I did it, and I'm like, oh, that's so cool. And then I tried to do it again, I'm like, that didn't work. Why did it not work? And I had to go back and figure out what I did. And it was all about drying time, which is what I'm going to share with you in class. So don't overthink it. We're gluing paper. That's it. If you're not gluing paper, you should be gluing paper. Yeah, there we go.
So
Just some pieces.
don't glue this.
Just to kind of give you an area. So we've got our base down on our tag. We've got our three little pieces of ephemera kind of stuck down there
On the board. Just glue. Just glue.
with our paper towel, making sure that everything is nice and secure. Now, here's the reason why I didn't want to do a top coat. We will do a top coat, but there's some things to know about Distress Collage medium if you are going to do a top coat. The collage brush is awesome. I wanted it designed because I love brush strokes. I love brush strokes in my collage. I love that look. I think it gives it a very kind of encaustic look when you're done with it. But there's a lot of people that really hate that brush for that very reason. They don't like brush strokes on their glue. They want it to look nice and smooth or whatever. But this is a tip, again, I learned from Paula because I enjoy the brush. I like the glue. She's like, yeah, not everybody likes that. So here's a trick that she taught me that I'm going to share with you. So if you have customers that do collage and they don't like using brushes for that reason, we're going to use our hands. And it's going to actually do two things for our collage. What we're going to do is we're going to use the brush to apply a layer of collage medium over everything. Right? This is going to seal it. So that means we want to go over the ephemera, we want to go over the edge of the paper, all of that. But once you do, you're just going to take your hand, take your fingers, and you're just going to kind of massage that collage medium across your tag. It's going to do a couple of things. One, it's going to eliminate the brush strokes. Two, if you use too much collage medium on this top layer, it's going to get all over your fingers. So you're going to know not to use too much collage medium. And you're going to do this until it almost kind of starts grabbing your fingers, right? You know that it's starting to get a little tacky, then you're done. Now, if you're one of those tactile people that are already freaking your freak because you didn't bring the gloves and goggles and all of that, don't worry.
Don't freak your freak.
Don't know who you are. But you just see, I see the panic on the face of like, I just said hands. Can I use your hands for this one? What all you're going to do is just take a baby wipe and collage medium. It is a water-based medium, which means it will clean up with water while it's wet. Okay? Not all water-based mediums always react with water. Collage medium is actually permanent when it dries. So if you didn't wipe it off while it's wet, you would be picking it off the rest of the day. Right? So just wipe it off. Then you're going to take that baby wipe and wrap your brush in it. Okay? Another great trick. If you're ever teaching classes, it's an awesome way. You can keep a brush in a baby wipe for up to 12 hours. So it's much better than having them always put that brush in water, because every time they put that brush in water, water goes into the bristles and you're diluting your glue. And that's what creates lasagna on your paper. It's moisture. Right? So if you're doing a collage class, you're like, put that in water, you don't want it to dry up, and then you go to use it again, and all your paper starts to get all bumpy. That's why. So just put it in a baby wipe. Right? So, go for it. Glue. That's it. Brush it on. Use your hands. There's no step thing other than brushing it on and rubbing it with your hands. There's no step on that. Cover the whole thing, rub it with your hands. I know it's not a poor picture. See, I already busted you on that. Just because you don't overthink this. Just put it on, and you'll see what I mean. Use your fingers. Just slide it around, just moves it around, and you do this until it kind of feels tacky, right? You don't want to rub off the paper, but you'll see what I mean. And put your whole hand on there.
Put your
Fingers,
whole
like
hand
really,
on it.
you'll see what I mean. It's a great tip, actually. For people that don't quite know how much glue to put on there, now you kind of feel it, and you feel when it's drying. And you know if you put too much on there, because your hand is like a slip and slide, right?
Oh,
it's just
Lord.
going everywhere.
Uh-oh.
So you'll know if you have too much or not enough.
It's like...
And you don't have to wait until it like grabs your skin and your skin becomes part of the paper. It's just that thing of like, okay, I feel that it's kind of getting tacky, set it aside. Really, great tip on that. Because some people are just over gluers. We know that. See? Good. Like a massage it first and then, yeah.
Is that like an over...
And you see what I mean by you feel it? You kind of feel your skin start to grab on it, and then you're done. Set it aside, wipe off your fingers, Put that in the baby wipe, move on. Easy, easy way. So next up, we're going to use some Crackle paste. And here's what I'm going to have
Don't worry
you
about your
do.
hands.
For the Crackle paste, we're going to put this onto this vignette panel. It should be dry. How do you know if it's dry? If you touch it and it's not wet, it's dry. Okay? Again, you're welcome. But here's the thing to know. If it isn't dry, use a heat tool. If it is dry, don't use a heat tool. It just needs to be dry to the touch. If you touch it and it does feel dry, it's dry enough. Don't think, oh, I need to really, really make sure it's dry. It just needs to be dry to the touch. If it is dry, or it's dry to the touch, you're simply going to take a little bit of sandpaper and you're going to sand off that excess tissue. Just be very aggressive. There's a little square in your kit, in your embellishment kit, and just scuff off the edge of that. It does not need to be crispy dry. If you're using the heat tool and the person next to you is watching you, it's not because they're interested in what you're doing. It's simply the fact that they too need the heat tool. So put them side by side and dry them both at the same time. You're welcome. Yeah, I know. Wow. Yeah.
It's like,
I like the ones that are like,
so this is the base, and so we're doing collage and everything. And then the other piece is a wood piece, like some of his little elements, and then we're doing mustard.
Just kind of scrape that off, peel it off. We don't need to sand the wood to where it's smooth. It's in your embellishment kit. There's a little square.
No, it's, well, the tag is chipboard, but the wood
Now,
piece
the
is a
heat
wood
tool, you can
piece.
get about an inch away. Move it around.
See?
There you go.
It's like,
It's good. Yeah, you can stay about an inch away from that surface with the Ranger heat tool. You don't need to wave it around. Just kind of slowly move
Just
it.
take the
And
edge
again,
off.
dry to the touch only. No need to cook it.
you can't be stressing up and on me from here now. That's like against my creed.
So once we have that, this is pretty much what I want you to end up with. Just kind of this little simple thing that's kind of straight. And then you can sit there
Look,
and we can have our Crackle paste and our palette knife ready. So I see you guys are drying, you're sanding, you're scuffing. Just tear off some of that paper. We're not trying to make that wood panel
Not making
silky
cards,
smooth.
people.
You're just trying to kind of rip it off. So as you're sanding, you can peel away as much as you want. Be aggressive.
Oh, you know what?
Oh, yeah.
We're
Not
betters. So we're free. We're free to do whatever we want. Which means rip it off. Yeah, like expose the edge. That's part of what makes it
it's stress, babe.
It's just, yeah.
See, this is the card maker in her, and I'm trying to tone her down. I'm working on it. It's taking time. We got Kathy. You guys, Kathy from Ranger.
Yeah,
Be aggressive.
it's good.
Right along the edge. If you get some of that paper off, bonus.
She's trying to help Joy calm down, but Joy needs a drink.
Be aggressive.
Let's just be real.
There you go.
No, words I think a happy thing.
There you go. Yeah, some of that peels off on the edge. Bonus.
Mine is looking
Just in
awesome.
case. So go for it.
Good. If it feels the
I
card
do
maker
say
and
so
he's
myself.
having trouble with that.
Breathe. Yep.
Have a drink.
Okay. So here's
Take
what
a
we're going to do
sip.
next. Next, we're going to work with Ranger's Crackle paste, and this stuff is very cool because
Tim
it provides
designed
this
it for
crackly
me.
finish that we're going to do. But I will warn you: be careful where you apply it. Wherever you apply it, there it is. Okay?
You hear
It's
him?
almost like a gesso-based
All right.
material, so it's very opaque. So if you decide that you're going to smear it all over this board, everything you just do with this collage paper, forget it, because it's going to completely cover it. So just pay attention to the sides. You'll know what we're going to do next.
Tim says pay
We're going to
attention
work
to
with a little
size.
jar that says Crackle paste. The jar doesn't say Crackle paste, that's not the jar. Okay? The crackly one, not the gritty one. And you're going to take a palette knife, and here's how I want you to apply this when we start. Just put a little bit on the tip of that palette knife.
Not
Just a
this
little
one.
bit. And we're going to start smearing it along the top edges, maybe a little bit down the side. If some of the paper came off, you can put it over that area or not. You can put it in a totally different area. But if you smear it all over the center, it's gone. It's an opaque
It's opaque,
crackle medium.
y'all.
Now, how much to apply? Well, it's a little funny. You kind of want to think almost like butter on toast versus peanut butter. Does that make sense? Right? So you want it on there to where it's a little wet, hasn't melted yet, right? But you don't want to smear it on like peanut butter because it's just going to take too long. We want stuff that's maybe a little wetter on the end. You can see where it kind of skips through, where it's almost completely thin. And then you can just wipe off your palette knife because that stuff likes to dry fairly quick. So that's all I want you to do at this point is put a little bit of that Crackle paste on a palette knife and just kind of go around the edges. It's your thing. Play around with different, I guess, levels of this paste, because this is going to be your sample that you're going to take back. So you'll know, okay, I was a little heavier in this corner. I spread it out a little thin. The thing to know about any kind of crackle medium, usually the bigger the cracks, right? But for this one, we want a little bit more of a delicate crackle, but don't spread it so thin that you don't have any, like, wet areas, because we do. We want some areas. Butter on toast. You don't like butter?
It really is like a little piece of toast. Kind of. Just
cream cheese. There you go. Yeah. Just don't think icing on a
Don't say cream cheese. I put way more.
Cake just is way too much. Right? When people are like peeking it like meringue, that would be horrible. You know, you'll do that.
No, I've never used.
Because as a maker, people say less is more. Makers were like, but more is better. Right? So play around with different levels. Have it a little heavier in some areas, a little lighter. If you put it on too light, you really won't get some crackle. So we want to just kind of play around with it. I will say that the more you use it, any other tips on that I kind of hit? We talked about analogies. What do I say? I don't like butter. I like peanut butter.
Who doesn't like butter?
Too much. Then, yeah, you wouldn't see it. Okay. So far, so good?
Yeah.
Excellent. Once you put that on, set it aside. Done. Move on. Wipe off that palette knife and move on. You see, you can play with that for like an hour.
Yeah.
I know. I want to be like, but if I just go on this little angle, and I've got this cool little upswing. What happens when I?
You're our people.
It's like hard to put it away.
It is. That's why. So we're going to add some stamped imagery. Anytime you add stamped imagery over something that you collage, it's very important that one thing happens, and that is it's a dry surface that you're stamping on. Stamping into wet collage medium is really not a good thing. It's not good for the stamp. It's not good for your project. It's just bad. So you're going to make sure that it's dry. How do you know if it's dry? See, you've already learned the most important thing as a maker. Right? It's the most, anyone that teaches, you know, it's your number one question. How do I know if it's dry? Touch it. Is it wet? No, it's dry. Oh, thank you. Yeah, you're welcome. So here's what we're going to do for that. We're going to share a stamp. We are going to work with the new Distress Archival link. I'm so excited that there are Distress colors in the files. Thank you, Ranger. It's a dream come true. We had that big giant pad, but anyone that used that, you just know that you just like to look at that. It's not really as functional as these little mini guys, but we have a lot of colors to choose from. Here's what's cool about Archival. It's oil-based, right? So when we stamp our image, we can actually stamp our image before or after we add Distress. Right? So we can stamp on top of Oxide and ink, or we can stamp before. Because it's oil-based, anything we put on it, it's going to resist, because Distress is water-based, and oil and water don't mix. So all we're going to do is you're going to take that little archival pad, tap it on that stamp that you're sharing with the person next to you, tap, 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 ink. Yeah, this is when everyone's like, no, really, you go first. Let me watch you do. I am one of you. I know the whole class lingo. You know, before it was like, let me get this, let me get the equal person. I was like, no, after you, really. Let me just see what not to do. You're just going to stamp it along the bottom edge, right? If it stamps solid, perfect. If it stamps where you missed an area, don't worry about it, because it's only going to be part of your background. You do not need, like, an actual verse that we're going to see. It's just for an accent so you can use it. So, go for it. Ink up that stamp. Stamp it. If it's not dry, use a quick heat tool, but it should be dry to the touch because of that little trick, right? That little hand trick, it's already dry.
Yeah.
Perfect. So tap the ink pad on the stamp, place it down, stamp along the bottom edge. It's just for
You're not a
effect.
stamper
So
here
if you get a
anymore.
perfect
We
image,
killed all the
great.
stampers.
You have part of the image that's faded away, don't try to
It's
double
media
stamp.
now.
It's okay. Really. It just adds an accent. Because I think a lot of us as stampers, we always think of stamping a lot of times as we're going to do all of our inking in background and then we're going to stamp. And you could do it that way, but it's also something cool about why we love archival ink, and that is the fact that any time through the collage process, you can stamp your image, and anything you put over the top, it doesn't matter. It's not going to affect that image, which is great. All right, so now we get to the good stuff. We're going to work with Oxide sprays. The newest product in the Distress line of Oxide. So cool. These things are weird. I'm not going to lie. If you're a maker and you love Oxide, how many of you have used Distress Oxide ink pads? Thank you. They're awesome, right? This medium, though, is totally different. Although it's an Oxide, and you think, oh, it's just an ink pad in a spray bottle, a Tiger Reinker. It's totally different, and you're going to see why, especially in this class. The cool thing about this spray is that it's a sprayable dye and pigment fusion, and we're going to use that to our advantage on this project. What you have to keep in mind, however, is that this is an opaque medium because of that pigment. So when we spray it onto something, it could get a little messy, which is why we want our splat boxes. There's some other things to know about this bottle. Pick up one of those bottles of Oxide spray and look at it. It doesn't look the best. It looks a little, well, oxidized already in the bottle. It looks a little crusty. To me, that's a bonus. Ranger,
Extra crust.
You should put this in like a bottle people can't
He's
see.
going to charge you extra next time, but for now it's just a free extra crust.
So the thing about this, it's going to look
vintage
like
photo
this.
and
It will
ice
look
spritz.
like this brand new because it's that dye and pigment that has to be mixed. Now the label will say shake side to side because if you start shaking this up, that ink could squirt out of the neck of the bottle, up through that spray bottle, right? I don't have time to do the side to side shake. You can, make a little sound, do a little dance, whatever you want to do.
Y'all should
Here's
have
what
saw
I
him.
do.
I'm sorry.
Take off the clear cap, I wrap it in a paper towel, and I shake the snot out of it. Just go for it, because any of that ink that's going to ooze out of the neck goes into the paper towel. And you'll see when you use it, it's just a great thing to have a towel there if you work with an ink towel or whatever. Then you can just shake it. You can kind of go crazy. Once we shake it up, here's what I would suggest as far as color order, so you can appreciate the blends. And you can shake on top, and that's fine. If you have 2 paper towels,
I'm not showing you what he
you're
just
going to use
did.
them both. Okay. As far as when you use it, you have to shake it every time you pick it up. Not if it's within a minute or so, but if you're like coming back to it a few minutes later, it would be a good idea to mix it up because we want that dye and pigment. Now the pigment in Oxide is not like a traditional mica pigment where you have to worry about it getting sucked up. It's just the fact that for Oxide to do its magic, we want that dye and pigment to become one, right? So I normally start out, we're going to lay this in your splat box, and your splat box is the way that you need to use it. Can I borrow yours? Everything should be kind of sitting in there, but we don't want to spray this little crackly bit. So if that's in the box, just kind of move it out of the box. Just have the tag in there. When you go to spray this, here's what I like to do. And I'll show you all the steps because this part is critical. I like to start with a little bit of blue, right? That's ice spruce. It's kind of this chameleon color. It doesn't know if it's blue or gray. It depends on its mood. Then I'm going to go in with a little bit of vintage photo into that. Spray that in a couple of areas. Then I'm going to go back with that ice spruce into that, and that's going to start creating this weird little, I don't know, color of goodness. Some people might refer to it as mud. I refer to that as the color of goodness. So I do a little blue, a little brown, a little blue, but here is the critical factor. As soon as you're done spraying, anything that you want to be visible, you need to go in with a paper towel, and you need to wipe it off. Kind of dab that oxide off. So don't clean it off with everything, but any of your ephemera, you need to go in with that paper towel and absorb that oxide before it has a chance to go in there. Otherwise, it's going to cover it up. Once you do that, you can take that same paper towel, kind of wipe off the nozzle, and set it aside. So go for it and spray. Put it in the splat box. Spray a little blue, a little brown, a little blue. Kind of do your thing. Whatever you want. Doesn't matter. Your project. So if you don't like brown, don't use it. Right? But I like those colors kind of mixed together. I would suggest using it even if you don't like it. But don't forget that last step, which is once you're done spraying, just kind of dab off that oxide. Go for it. Commit. The thing about sprays, you must commit. If you hesitate on a spray, that's where things go wrong. That's where the nozzle doesn't want to spray fully. It starts to clog. Just commit. But you can see what's nice about having a splat box because it's like spraying paint, isn't it? It's okay.
Kind of overcommitted.
And the thing about this that you'll learn when you're using it in your own creative environment is that when you go to clean it up, it makes more. One of those things that when you have a little dusting of oxide spray and you go to wipe it off with a baby wipe, now you just double the amount of oxide spray and you wipe it again, and then before you know it. So having this box. Your colors are important to mix. Now you think, wait, should we be adding water to this? Not right now. Not right now. Just put on whatever color blends you want, dab off what you want to see, and leave it in the box. You're good. Do not use a heat tool. You don't need to do anything other than look and marvel at your wonder. I would suggest that in this process, more is better. Right? The more oxide you have down there, the more those colors can interact, the more exciting your background is going to be. Because you're truly going to understand what makes an oxide spray so cool. If you just kind of give it a light little misting, it's probably not going to be enough to give you the effect that you want. I do like both, and I like to finish with that top layer of ice spruce because it's going to be a magical color. But we want that modeling thing. Perfect. Great. set it aside to do its thing. Now, in a perfect world, could you use a heat tool? Yes. In a perfect world, you can draw this right away and move on. But in class, we're not going to be doing that.
You dab though, you don't wipe.
Whatever you want. I dab. If you want to wipe, that's fine.
He dabs.
We're going to alter some embellishments. I think it's important to always give some suggestions on ways to alter embellishments because our creative world is full of them. And when people can see how they can change it with Ranger products, that is always exciting. So, our first thing that we're going to alter is a little flower, right? These are the bouquet from Ideology. They are paper flowers designed to take ink. So what we're going to use is a mini mister that has some water in it, that little pink distress spray stain between you and the person next to you, not Oxide. We're using that pink spray. And here's what I'm going to have you do. Somewhere in your Splat Box, you've got a little bit of real estate. Just start with a misting of water. Do not hose this down. If you hose this down, it's going to go from a flower to, it's like a Q-tip. You're saying it won't look anything like a flower because right now it's paper, and if you get it too wet, it just becomes this nut. A little mist of water, a little spray of spray stain. The reason we add water is spray stain is reactive with water, right? So if we wet that surface first and then hit it with stain, that ink is going to wick into the petals and it's going to give you that immediate gradation of color. Instead of just going in with straight spray stain, then it would all be the same color. And you'll see what I mean. As soon as you hit it, it'll just do it. Spray it a couple times if you want. Spin it around to where you're happy with it. Pick it up and look at it the same way I did. So that's why I took a photo. I'm like, oh, how it worked. And then you're done. So go ahead and pick up the flower, mist it with water, give it a couple sprays of that pink spray stain, and then look at it. Yeah. The flowers are wired, so feel free to bend them open. They're very cool. Now, the Ideology bouquet, you get a giant cluster in the bag. Yeah, they're awesome because they can be inked with any kind of ink. They can be used with spray stain or dilutions, or you can dip them, you can use paints on them, you can use markers, whatever color you want. Now, if for whatever reason you were so busy watching where you sprayed that you got them darker than what you wanted, you may not know. They are going to lighten as they dry. But if you went in with a paper towel and just touched it, it would immediately suck out the color out of those flowers too. So sometimes if you're working on a project and you want it really, really faint, you can still spray them with a darker color, touch them with a paper towel, and they'll dry a lighter color. All right? So go ahead and set that down, and here is the next thing that we're going to do. And again, Paula taught me this. I was like, this is good. She's like, wait till you do it, though. It's even better. Like, you know, when you explain stuff on Skype, she's like, you just need to do it and call me back. So what we're going to do is we're going to alter some wood pieces with ink. And when I say wood pieces, meaning it's going to be that little busted ruler. That's a little ruler piece from Ideology. And then the reinforcer from the tag, okay? Because that's also just kind of a papery thing. And here's what we're going to do. These are the materials that you're going to need. That little ruler piece, that reinforcer, that little ink pad, distress pad, a little bit of collage medium, that's going to be that little squeezy, and a baby wipe. All right, so here's what we're going to do for this. We're going to use our ink pad like a stain. And you think, well, hello, Captain Obvious. You have spray stain. You just use it on the flower. Why don't you use it on this? It works different. The ink pad is going to do something different on this wood that a spray stain won't do. So here's what you're going to do. You're simply going to rub that ink pad, when we start, onto those substrates, across the ruler, onto that reinforcer, just using the ink pad. You don't have to make it completely saturated. You can see I left some areas open, so don't sit there and do like 12 layers of ink. Just rub it on there, okay? Leaving it kind of patchy. But because distress reacts with water, and collage medium is a wet glue, so to speak, you can squirt a little puddle of that somewhere on the craft sheet. Take your finger, dip it in, yeah. This time you're going to go in and you're just going to start moving this collage medium over that ink. And that ink is going to start to react and wick. And it really gets into that wood. It just kind of stains it very organically. It gives it these highs and lows, this depth, to really make it look like an authentic old ruler, not just this brown stick with printed numbers. You're going to do that to both the ruler and the reinforcer. And then when you're done, you can clean up your little finger. It may have a little bit of ink left over. You're welcome. And that's that. So go for it. Take your ink pad, rub it right on there. It's a cool trick. And of course you can do this with any color distress ink, but you're going to see what I mean, that by using that ink pad, and you can rub it on the sides of the ruler, anything you want, but by using that and then blending it with collage medium, it just takes on kind of a different effect. It's cool. You get some highs and lows in that. something totally different. It's a great little trick. Once you have a hit, now is not the time. Just wait for it. Yeah, I know. And then you just seal it with your finger. I know. That's why you're like, I've been watching. You're doing good. You've embraced it. I love that. But you see what I mean. What's that?
An extra wash.
Oh, no worries.
Thanks, Timmy.
Watch it. All right, so far so good. You guys see what I mean? Pretty neat, right? When you start moving that ink around with that little bit of collage medium, it does. It gives that piece kind of a little bit more personality.
Around here somewhere.
Now, if you
I'll
wanted
look
to go
for
back with ink, don't put the ink kind of back into the glue. You would just need to use full-on finger for that.
This looks like my grandpa's ruler.
All right, so far so good?
Is that the one I just gave you?
Okay.
Okay.
Next embellishment we're going to
That's all
alter. So if you're still working on that, keep smearing around. But the next thing we're going to do some metal. Now you have a little metal star in your kit, and you also have a pack of story sticks. I need you to choose one. I know, kiss of death for a teacher to say choose, but I need you to choose one. Whichever one you like, whether you like a word or a number, whatever speaks to you. The first one, just take one. Don't try to keep them all in their little compartments and all that. Just rip them out, choose one, and we're going to alter these. The cool thing about a lot of metal embellishments is metal embellishments have different types of textures. Some of them are dimensional. Some of them have carved in things like these. They have like recessed numbers. And there's a lot of embellishments that we have, all different types of charms and things like that, that have a really great way to change or have this kind of altered effect. And something very simple like a distress crayon makes easy work out of this. If you've seen a lot of things, I know back in the day when making memories had all those great little stamped in things, and we used to take our acrylic paint and we paint them and we wipe it off. Yeah. But then with paint, like if you wipe it too much, it scoops it out, and if you don't have enough, the crayon it's foolproof. It's so fast and so easy. And so here's what we're going to do with those. I'll take you through all the steps. I'll give you a chance to do it while you're still choosing that very important first thing. All right. What we're going to do is take that white distress crayon, and we're simply going to scribble it right over the word, just right onto it. What we're doing is we're filling in the channel with the crayon. Now, distress crayon, believe it or not, will dry onto the metal, which is great. So once you scribble it on, you're just going to take your finger, you don't need any water or anything, and you're just going to kind of start rubbing over that, kind of smearing it off. If you need to add more crayon, you can. But then once you're done, it's done. It's just that simple. If you want to leave some of that crayon on top of the metal to make it look oxidized, you can. Bonus. Same thing for the star. Although the star is not flat, we can still go in and take that crayon and kind of go into the grooves with the crayon. Take your fingers, kind of rub it around, just like that. And that's going to give it that immediate, shabby, oxidized look without using any paint whatsoever. And you can do this with any color of distress crayon. It's so easy. So alter the story stick and the star. Simple way to alter metal with a crayon. So fast. And you'll see it just kind of moves around. It's very forgiving. I like the fact that you get to decide if you want it super shabby or you want it to be metallic. So easy.
Shabby, baby. Yeah.
Right? It should be more difficult. It should be messier.
Hey, Joy, how you living?
Yeah.
Are you living your best
Crayons make easy
shabby
work with
life?
that.
Doing wonderful. Except I'm just not used to some messy stuff.
How's everyone doing?
Get messy,
Good.
girl. Get messy.
It is. It's super simple.
Messy people have more fun.
Anyone still choosing their story stick? No, you gotta raise your hand, by the way. Yeah. If you do, just like good. Perfect. Now the thing about a crayon, so let me tell you that. Once it is on a substrate like metal, a distress crayon will always be reactive with water.
Shabby all
Right?
the
So
things.
although it will be dry to the touch, and it will be when you use it on a project, it's completely safe. If you didn't like it and you went over it with water or a baby wipe, you can clean all of that out. Right? A lot of people, especially in today's mixed media world, they're so caught up on sealing everything. What do I seal it with? What do I seal it with? I need to seal this. I'm not quite sure what that fixation is of sealing things, unless you plan on putting this outdoors or carrying it in the rain just for fun. So some things need to be sealed, like when we're doing collage, but not everything needs that. If you did need to seal this for whatever reason, you would need to go over it with something solvent. The great rule of thumb in our creative world is if you use something water-based, seal with something solvent-based. Use something solvent-based, seal with something water-based. Otherwise, the two will always react with each other.
Where's your star? Right here. Let's see.
Okay.
There's white stuck in between the lines.
Next, here we go. This is fun. I think it's more fun for us because we love to watch you guys do this. We're going to be tying string.
Oh,
We're going to tie a bow. It seems simple until you have to do it in class. You know, being a student, it just seems like you tie your shoes in the morning, yet when you have to tie something in class, everything you ever knew about tying your shoes is gone.
You forget.
Totally out of your head.
Yeah.
You're like, I have no idea what you just did. All right. You should find a piece of string, should be in your kit. It's craft thread. That's nice. Yeah, that's what it looks like. It's got a really nice weight to it. You should have a story stick. You should have your ruler. Is the ruler dry?
No.
Should be. If it isn't, you know what to do. So we're going to, I'm going to go through it, but I can probably review it if I need to. But it's quite simple. This is one that I'm going to do a review step. If you're pretty quick, I would just do as I'm talking. You get a better visual. But I won't touch it. You're going to take the string, and you're going to insert it through the hole, and you're going to tie it once, right in the middle. Just like that. I know. Okay. Just tie it once. Then you're going to lay it on the ruler. Hold it with your finger so it lays flat on the ruler. Kind of off to one side, maybe off to the right a little bit. It doesn't matter. You can wiggle it a little bit later. Then you're going to take one of those threads, and you're going to wrap it around probably 1.5, one direction. You're going to take the other thread, wrap it the opposite direction, about 1.5-ish. Then you're going to take those two ends, you're going to tie them. Then once you do that, you're going to tie a bow, just like your shoes. No fancy anything with a back handspring, just that's it. And now we watch.
I love the way he says, that's it. Just like, okay.
This is just like tying your shoes, but it does seem complicated when you have to do it on something else. I'm not making fun of anyone. I'm stating the obvious because I'm the same way. I will have to go back and watch a YouTube video how they tied that bow 100 times because all of a sudden I don't know how to tie a bow when it comes to ribbon, right? You know? And if you've wrapped it around the ruler 2 or 3 times and you don't have enough thread to tie a bow, unwrap it. That will give you more thread. You're welcome. Yeah.
I'm serious.
Buddy system. Be like, hold this guy, use your finger, can you just right there so I can tie that
Fingers are
bow.
so fat.
And if you don't like to tie a bow and you tie a knot, no one will judge you. Some people are just not.
Joy will judge you.
You've got a support team right here. You have Paula who can tie a bow with their hands behind her back. How's it going? See, you thought I was kidding, but until you had to do it, the pressure was on, right? It seems so simple until you do it, and then all of a sudden you break a mild sweat. It's so stressful. Which one's Paula? Well done. I like that. I like the X actually.
No, but who is she?
No one will judge you. You want to tie a fancy knot? You want to braid the ends? Pieces, but that would be awesome. All right. Everyone, you okay with that?
Yeah.
Excellent.
Yay.
Okay. So the thing about this, the thing about the whole rush of the first part of the class is don't waste time on things that don't matter. That's really what it is. All those things that you've done right now, none of those mattered at this point. We haven't really built anything. We've glued some things down to create a foundation. We put some color on there. We've smeared some things on the embellishments. We stained the flowers. All of those things will eventually matter when you put something together. And I think a lot of people, especially people that are new to mixed media, get very intimidated when they hear that. Some artists are like, hey, I'm totally in mixed media, this is cool. But a lot of people that are wanting to kind of cross over from scrapbooking or card making into mixed media, they think of this as this very complex, overwhelming, very dirty kind of thing. And mixed media is really just about mixing up different medias, not just totally staying with paper, or not totally staying with stamps and ink pads. But when you kind of break down a project and compartmentalize to say, okay, we're just going to do our foundation, set it aside. We're just going to alter some embellishments, set that aside. Then it gives you the chance when we go to put it all together, you're like, all right, now I've got all those pieces at the ready. I don't have to go and prep every single thing that I do. And that's what it's all about. So we're going to get into the magic of Oxide spray now. Because now you're going to see what really is going to make these kind of magical, if you will. Very odd, very different. The thing about a spray oxide is that it is this dye and pigment. It is opaque when you spray it on there, but those dye and pigments make it very, very unique. It has a tendency to, when we work with it over collage medium, actually permeate different surfaces. And I'm going to show you exactly what I mean, and then I'll have you do it. All right, so take all this in. Hit record on your brain to see that. Okay? When we go to work, we do want this to be dry to the touch. If it's not dry, if you have a puddle of something, you're going to want to dry with the heat tool. But once we do that, here's the part that you as the maker get to kind of play around with. You'll see that when this dries, it creates that kind of opaque, almost chalky-looking paint. If you wanted it to be more oxidized, right, you wanted more of that white to kind of show through. We know that oxide is reactive with water. We didn't use any water here, so you can see that it still gives it kind of that cloudy haze. But if you were to spray this with water, it would become even more oxidized. I chose not to spray it with water. I was very happy with this background. But if you did it and you're like, oh, I'm creating this piece and I want it really oxidized, you could add water, and believe it or not, it would oxidize even more, right? But what happens here, because we put this onto collage medium that was dry to the touch, the collage medium, in fact, was not cured. Okay? If you've ever worked with collage medium or gel medium, usually in our art world, that means that we use that often as a sealer, right? Once collage medium or gel medium is dry, our surface is technically waterproof. But that's only in this case when it's cured. And this is where I said I did it once and it worked, and then I did it again, it didn't work. So the first time I did it exactly like I taught it. I put it on, let it dry to the touch, sprayed it on. The next time I'm like, ooh, I'm going to prep. So I did all my collaging, and then the next day I went back and sprayed my oxide, and it all wiped off. Okay, it didn't work. I don't know what I did different. Well, the difference was it dried longer. So if you're going to do this in a class environment, like, don't prep all your background saying, oh, I'm not going to have a blue paper, I'm just going to give it and we're going to ink it. There is something about that collage medium needing to be dry to the touch, not cured. Because once it is cured, it becomes like this creative dry erase board. Everything you put on, right back on. Yeah. So what's going to happen here that you're going to notice, you're going to take a baby wipe. Okay, now, depending on how wet the baby wipe is, if it's too wet for what you're doing, I like to take a baby wipe, put it in a paper towel, squeeze the two together, and then you each have one that's kind of slightly damp, because I do think a baby wipe is too wet sometimes, because it's just like you're mopping the colors. So that's what I would do. Take a baby wipe, take a paper towel, squeeze it together, give one to each of you. You're going to go in and start revealing what you want to reveal, right? Meaning, I can go in and start rubbing and moving some of that oxide out of the way. You'll start revealing that stamped image that's in oil, right? So you get that great crisp line. And the more you start dabbing and revealing, the more you're going to see that some of that colorant actually stained what's underneath, right? This rusty color, this brown, that was the ink from that vintage photo that permeated it. So it's a dye. So when you wipe it off, you're never wiping off that color. It's under there. Some areas you're going to get bits of blue that are under that collage. No matter how much you wipe off, that's the staining part. And when you're done, you have this very cool mottled background, and then you can just dry it. So now go in and do the reveal. Play around with as much as you want to remove of that oxide spray, but it does need to be wet enough for you to reveal it. And don't be afraid. You're not going to hurt anything. In fact, when you use that baby wipe, it's going to oxidize again when it dries, because it's reactive with water. So that's why I like to go with that baby wipe over something like microblading. So go ahead and I'll put up the next slide, because that'll be your 4. You guys are too trained. I love that. There you go. Now you feel good. Yeah, we got 4 pictures.
So you don't have to wipe a lot off then?
Not if you don't want to, but when you wipe it off, that's what's going to show the dye that's under there. That, to me, is the magic when you really scrub up. Oh, my God.
Give Tim his magic.
See, when you get some of that translucent dye that is under the paper, and then you still have that layer of oxide spray on the top.
You're doing good.
Could you go back and spray more? Like, now that you did it, you're like, oh, now I know. I should have used more. Sure, you could go in and spray more and dry it with the heat tool, and off you go. That's what's really nice about this particular effect, is that as you go in, and you can really, like, scrub it off if you want, because you're never going to remove that dye. Which is why it was important that we cleaned off that ephemera, right? If you didn't take off any of that ephemera, and you tried to go in and clean it now, the dye would have covered that piece of paper. but it gives you a really cool oxidized finish. And could you just go in and spray it on there and not wipe anything off? Absolutely. The more of that oxide spray you have, it just has a different reaction than the ink pads do. So the ink pads have that really beautiful, soft, kind of creamy effect that if we do add water on it, we get that great modeling, but isn't that freaking awesome? It's like delicious. Yeah.
It's delicious.
Oh, that's stinking cool.
So if you see it and you're like, oh, I like this, but I want more of that good blue magic. Yeah, that ice spruce. You have the technology. Do it. Wrap it in the paper towel, shake it up, spray on some more, dry it with a heat tool. I mean, the nice thing about at this point, now that you really know in your brain what you're doing, you could go back and add layers at any time. What made this work, and that's what you need to remember, is that we put this over dry to the touch collage medium. If that collage medium was cured, when you went to do that white thing, you would have wiped off every single bit. You would have been back to that first step of this paper. There would not have been any ink that went into the surface. Why that is, not sure. That's the beauty of a technique, right? You discover the unexpected, you're like, I don't know how to do that.
Discover the unexpected.
And it's very cool because I think that this spray, it just has a different way about it, right? It almost looks like it's bruised the paper a little bit. It has some really interesting coloring under that surface. If we put it through stencils, great way that we can add effects. Even if you didn't want to do an all-over pattern, you can spray oxide through a stencil and just get that pattern to oxidize. When I did Facebook Live, I showed the ability to do oxide spray over distress ink, to actually do an opaque spray over a dye background. So there's a lot of cool things about these sprays. Trust me, I'll need to give you all 12 colors, but I figured I need to limit your options. 2. But they're fun, and they're fun to mix and match because you never know which dye is going to be more dominant. In this case, it was that vintage photo. You can see that really beautiful rust color that went under the surface. Pretty awesome. So yes, if you wiped off too much and you want more oxide on, you can spray it. If you're happy with it, excellent. We're good. So here's what's next. Next, once you're happy with that, and you're just marbling your work, and you're just on this absolutely happy high, we're going to add a little grit and glitter. So what's going to happen right now is they are going to pass around glitter dust for everybody. Do not do anything with it other than have that same feeling as you're holding it. But don't try to do anything with it. Because the reason I didn't put it in front of you was not to give you this over moment, was just because I did not want 100 broken glitter dusters. Because if you don't know how it works, it doesn't work the way you think it should work. Because I broke my very first one. That's how I know. The very first one, I got it, I broke it, and I'm like, okay, note yourself in class, it doesn't sit in front of you. Here's what you need to know.
Broke it.
We're going to add some glitter, and we're going to use some grit paste. But first, we need to understand the glitter duster. So everybody, pick up the glitter duster in your hand. I don't have one. Anybody have an extra one? Can I borrow yours? Thank you. Okay. The glitter duster is very strange. It's got this little nozzle. And your brain makes you think that you need to drain this nozzle out so it goes straight. It doesn't work that way. This actually clicks to the side. Think of it like a pendulum. Okay? So you can click it over to either side, but do not try to bend it straight out or you will rip off the top of the glitter duster. It doesn't work. So click it open. And it has a swivel. You can click it up. It can actually go all the way around. But that's how it works, like hands of a clock. Got it? Okay. Once you have it kind of pointed somewhere, you can dust in your hand. I don't care, but don't dust on your work area. But you do need to kind of prime it, right? Because these have been filled. These are filled with rock candy glitter. And it works. If you just start squeezing this, you're going to see that it's going to literally dust glitter. You're able to spray a dry particle. It's wild. So you can kind of go over the floor, spray it in your hand, kind of get it ready. Spray it in your hand, you got it. You'll see that the glitter's going to come out. You have to prime the pump. But look at your hand.
I'm going to try to do this, y'all.
You can fill a glitter duster with any dry particles. You can fill it with embossing powder if you want.
Oh.
You can fill it with different colors of glitter.
Can y'all see that? Oh. Joy is going to be glitterific primer.
Cool, right? It's mind-blowing how we have a bottle that sprays powder. It's weird, but it's very nice when we work with glitter on things that you don't have to be a dumper, right? You don't have to put it on and you take that jar and you just dump it on and you have like a big blob of stuff. This is really cool because it's a great way that we can test it. But it's the opening thing that unless you do it, you break your first one, you just like rip it off and
Can I just ask you a question? Do you think that looks funny with a square?
No, because it's going to be covered.
Okay.
Never happened.
Thank you.
All right, so here's what we're going to do. Let me go through the steps, and then you're going to do it because this is a drying time thing here. So we're going to go in with some grit paste, okay? Distress grit paste. That's a jar we haven't used yet. And what this is also an opaque paste, but it's gritty. It has some little particles in it. It's going to give some great texture to the project. We're actually not going to color the grit paste in this class, but you could color grit paste either before or after because it is a porous medium. But we're just going to use it for the contrast. And what we're going to do is taking that little starry stencil, I'm going to put it somewhere near the top, put a little bit of grit paste on that palette knife, spread it through the stencil. Here's a rule of stenciling with any kind of paste. When you apply it, you're simply going to spread that through the stencil. If you can't see the pattern of your stencil, you have too much medium before you lift it off. Okay? So you kind of want to gently scrape over the stencil. Don't dig it all back out. But you'll kind of get what I'm saying. When you smear it on, if you can't see the stencil, you have too much medium, and if you lift it off, it will all just kind of collapse into itself. So just kind of stick that off. Once you do, you're going to peel off the stencil. You're going to place that in your splat box, because that's going to catch all your glitter as well. Oh, that looks good. And you're going to dust it. Dust, 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 dust. Spray as much of that glitter onto that white paste as you want. Just keep hosing it down, or not. If you just want a little dusting, that's fine. And then you're going to take that stencil, you're going to kind of go to that opposite corner on the bottom. And we just want the stars to be random. This falling star, like you can see on the top, not every star is complete. It's just there. It's just a pattern. You're going to do the same thing down to the bottom area, and you're going to dust it. So this is all yours. And when you're done, you can take a baby wipe and do your best to kind of wipe off grit paste off of the stencil. It's not ideal. Normally in a perfect world, put it in water. But you'll be able to clean that stencil later, even with water, but at least wipe this baby wipe. So, go for it. Grit and glitter. Two good combos, right? A little grit, a little glitter. Yeah. Hashtag grit and glitter. Yeah. It's cool. And I love the duster because, well, one, it's a great way that you can control how much glitter is on there. And two, you're really able to apply that little sparkle. No, you don't have enough time. Yeah, the thing about grit paste is it dries, it doesn't completely dry quickly. It gets that kind of skin-like pudding very quick. So that's why I like grit, glitter, glitter. Because if you try to grit, grit, glitter, glitter, you won't get as much glitter. It's nice. It's subtle. It's subtle and sparkly. So could we have dumped a whole jar of stuff on it? Yes, but this is about adding an accent to this. After all, this is just going to be a vintage project, but when it's dry, those little stars will just kind of slightly twinkle. I think the glitter duster, more than anything, for card makers that just want to put down some type of sticky embossing powder or even some adhesive tape, this is a great way to add sparkle over a background without dumping that jar of glitter and getting that part of the glitter line. So it's really nice. And it's very subtle. You also won't see the true sparkle until
Keep your
so feel free to dust on. It's nice. It becomes slightly addicting, I know. Because then you want to just literally start dusting that stuff everywhere.
Is it coming out? It doesn't feel like it's coming out. Maybe it is.
Put your hand in front of it.
Gotta prime that baby.
Yeah. You see glitter in your hand? Yeah. So we're using rock candy. Rock candy happens to be clear, so it's one of those things that you're spraying glitter, you're like, is this thing happening? Is this thing
I'm right behind you.
It is. It's just supposed to be subtle. That's our goal. But feel free to dust on. All right? Good job.
Thanks so much.
Now, and now you can click that back down.
No, but I know what she means. Like, you get to the point where you primed it and you're like, is it there? What's happening?
No, really, the first time I used it, I broke mine. Right out of the package. Because my brain just told me just pull the nozzle straight out. Of course, that's how it works. And I snapped off the whole top, and I couldn't snap it back on. All right, everyone do okay? Yes, I'll take that as a yes. Silence is yes to me? Okay. So next we're going to go in and we're going to distress the crackle. So while you're cleaning up your stencil, this is kind of multitask, also look at your crackled panel. If for whatever reason it is not crackled, then you can go in with a heat tool at this point and you can finish the process. So I know you're cleaning up the stencil, but look at your panel next. If it's not dry, it's still wet, you can use a heat tool on the crackle page at this point. So I'll give everyone time to kind of get to this point.
It's really pretty collage paper. I like it better than the last.
Now, when you see the crackle, and you can even see up on the screen, when it's dry, it's kind of crackled, but we will highlight those with color. We really will.
Can I take this out of your way?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Coming around with paper towel if you need more. If you have garbage you want to get rid of.
Dusting, the wind in the air.
Paper towel.
All right.
Just if you used up what was at your destination.
That's all we're doing. Yep, dust it, clean off the stencil. Don't be a neat freak with your stencil. It won't be in new condition anymore. You have used it.
With you.
You've used it. Just kind of wipe off some of the gunk. You'll be able to clean it fully, honestly. If you have a sink just with water, you'll be able to scrub it the rest of the way. But I just want this done. So here's what we're going to do on this panel. So while you guys are drawing it, I'm going to go through the steps and I'll give you a chance to do it. The cool thing about this crackle paste is that you do get a random crackle. Obviously, areas that were thicker, you have a little bit more crackle. You'll see some of these areas where it's thin, there's little to no crackle, and that's okay. That's all part of what we're doing on this vignette panel. What we're going to do, though, is we're going to highlight this. We're going to really bring out whatever crackle you did or didn't get, and we're also going to be able to give this more of a cohesive vintage look, because right now, it looks like you just smeared white frosting or toothpaste onto a wood panel. So we're going to work with that other distress crayon. And this part's really cool. What I love about a distress crayon is that it is a water-reactive pigment. And the fact that it's pigment means that it's going to cover up anything, even something super bright white like this, right? If you try to go with a blending tool in your distress ink, this just wouldn't work. And the crayon makes really quick work of getting intense color into small areas, obviously like we did on the story stick. So all I'm going to do is just scribble some of the color. So let me give you a close-up of what scribbling looks like. That's what scribbling looks like. Scribbling doesn't look like coloring all of that white solid brown. That's about taking the crayon and just scribble little lines all the way around. Here's where the magic comes, right? We're going to react that crayon. So what you're going to do is you're going to take that mini mister, we're going to just mist over that scribbled crayon, right? That's going to react those crayons. Then you're going to take a blending brush. Now, a blending brush can be used for a lot of things. It can be used for ink, it can be used for oxide, but it's awesome on crayon because of that really coarse bristle and the fact that it's domed. It's going to allow you to start working that kind of damp crayon into all of those crevices to reveal this. Gives it a really cool vintage look immediately. It's going to tone down that white. It's going to get that color kind of in those grooves. If you need more crayon, you can scribble it, mist it again, go in with that brush. Once you do that, though, you can still go in with a baby wipe and reveal some of the color. So if you go in with that brown crayon and you're a little aggressive and you think, ooh, I don't like the fact that my flowers aren't bright again, or maybe I do want some of that crackle paste to be a little bit lighter, you can go over the top of that with a baby wipe to bring up some of that brightness into your background. So go forth and distress the crackles. Just brown crayon, mist of water, because that's going to react the crayon. Take that blending brush. If you haven't used a blending brush before, you simply pull off the top, slide down that metal kind of harness around it to expose the bristles, and go for it. These are natural bristles, so the nice thing about these blending brushes, you can easily clean these off by wiping them on a baby wipe. So you can take a brush and go from crayon to paint to ink simply by going on a baby wipe. You never need to rinse them under water. Yep. So a blending brush, and really kind of get in there, like just grind it in. There you go. Because you want to work color into those cracks.
Hey, Cheryl.
Be generous with the crayon, right? When you do a scribble, do a hard scribble on that crayon. Get some of that color in there. And you can always go back with more.
Grinding the scribbles.
Put that color in there.
We're not top coating
But
it.
this brush, because of that dome top, really allows you to apply the color. It's a great way to add ink and stencils. It gives it a very, very soft kind of look. I know it's not soft as a lot of these inking brushes that are very soft, almost like cosmetic grade. These are a little bit more, well, grungy, my speed, which I'm okay with that. So, you know, there's not one brush for everything. If you want something really soft, almost airbrush, you should definitely work with a softer brush. But
Cuties in the front. That's crazy. You guys can
and yes,
hear
if
okay?
you just want to clean the blending brush, just going over a baby wipe will do it.
My beard is
So don't be afraid to get it all kind of grungy is you can start lifting that off later. You can use a baby wipe, you can use your fingers. If you don't like how light it is, you can go back and add more crayons. This is just about getting some color. But it's not finished, so don't judge this as a finished work of art. You're like, ooh, I don't have enough crackle here. It's heavy over here. It looks like it fell on its side. It's okay. It's still just a background. It's part of the layers. It's part of the effect. All right. So far, so good. Well done. Next, we're just going to take these elements and we're going to assemble. And assembling is cool because this is where your personality comes in. I'm going to guide you through the process of how we put all of this together. But of course, as we put it together, you get to decide where you want to place things ish. Okay? There's some select real estate just for your safety. But this is what we have. We've got some elements. We've got our cool tag, right? Our cool tag's got that oxidized layer. We've got that great ephemera area. We've got some stamped imagery in there. So see, as a story owner, you can incorporate a lot of little ingredients into one magical background. That's just the background. We haven't even done anything with it. So here we've used paper, collage medium, ephemera, grit paste, glitter, stamps. A lot of things we can always do. And then, of course, we've got that little panel. The panel's nice because a lot of times when we're collaging, if you start with something really big, most people don't know where things go, right? A lot of people create collages that, kind of everything's floating in orbit because they don't know where to put stuff. If that happens and you have trouble teaching collage, a great way to do it is to start with a big background and then create a smaller background where everything can live. And that's what I loved about Paula's project. I saw all of these things, yet it had one little anchor point where everything went. And I thought, that's a great way to collage because if you've ever taught collage, you're like, you do all this, and then you put it together, and you're like, where do I glue this? Where does this thing go? It could go anywhere. Well, that's going to be up to you. So let's start by just assembling our foundation. We've got some foam squares. We're going to take 4. I know there's more than 4 in Mexico, but we're going to take 4. 1 in each corner. I'm one of you. If you give me a strip of adhesive, I'm going to use it. In this case, 4. 1 in each corner, peel off the back, and then
Nikki is your favorite
stick it down.
piece of
You're going to stick it
things.
down kind of offset, right? A little bit off in that area. You can put it wherever you want, but I would kind of offset it so you see some of that buttony ephemera on that left side. Can you see that up
Post
there?
it in my group
And you're just going to go in and stick it down. So 4 foam squares, 4.
That's fine.
Peel off the back. That's what makes those things work. And then, you're welcome. And then you're going to put that down onto your background. So the nice thing about this, why I said don't worry about your background, is this is a great way to cover up the ugly, right? Things didn't go as planned. You're like, that's exactly where that panel's going. So it doesn't have to go off to the right or the left or the middle. It's wherever you want it to be. And you're just going to stick it down. Peel and stick, okay? So once you have that kind of peel and stick, we've got some other little embellishments to put on there. We're going to build this up. And these embellishments, these are going to be gluers. And gluers need a little bit of time to dry. That's why we're doing them now. So we're going to work with collage medium that's in that little squirt bottle. You can see the collage medium, we've used it in the jar as a little squeeze. Different applications make it easy work. We're just going to take collage medium. We're going to squeeze a little bit on the back of the reinforcer. Now, if you go in and you squeeze on a nice layer, that's awesome. It's just going to ooze out. Bonus. You don't need to. When you go to put it on the ruler, you're just going to do a line. See that kind of line? Right? Don't get all fancy zigzag on me. Okay? The closer you are to the edge, the closer the glue is to coming off the edge. Welcome. And you're just going to glue those down. Reinforcer on the top, ruler somewhere on the bottom-ish. Okay? And you just set it in the collage medium just like that. So apply the collage medium, glue that down. Here's the thing about collage medium if you've not used it. This adhesive has these really crazy ability to not only bond anything, you can glue metal to metal, metal to glass, glass to metal, to fabric, to wood, to rubber, to paper. Anything you think to glue, you can glue with collage medium. But this will shrink when it dries. So if you get the inevitable glue ooze, you stick that down and it oozes out of the side, don't worry, you don't even have to clean it up. You don't have to scrape it off or wipe it off. As it dries, that glue will go behind that item and dry crystal clear. So if you're gluing a button and you get that little donut ring, leave it there. It'll shrink behind that button when it dries. Totally invisible. No shine, no sheen, no nothing. So it's really a great glue for that. You need enough glue for that to sit in, to dry, to actually stick. But you also don't need to like push and hold it and try to pick it up and see if it's on there and swing it over your head. You just put it on and leave it there. Excellent. Now the hard part. You're going to choose the cast of your project. I will give you probably 48 seconds.
40, no.
What you're going to do is open that pack of paper dolls
Audition them.
and choose your favorite. Now, when you pick your paper doll, you
Guys,
see your
there's like
project.
100
You see where
million in
that
here.
paper doll needs to live.
Some are
You choose
creepy,
the giant one.
some are
Well,
cool.
it's a giant one. It doesn't matter, big, small. Choose the one that you like. But what you really won't have time to do is to lay them all out on the floor, name them all, and pick one. Just whatever one kind of speaks to you. You can just set it on your background just to
This
see
one
if
has
it
a
kind of
dog.
looks. They're all great. They're all different.
Oh my goodness. This is
We're
so
constantly
hard.
updating our cast of paper dolls. We actually have, this is 2018's cast that's kind of still in circulation. But we have a new cast, I think it rolls out March. So it's the same SKU, it's like as a retailer, it never changes.
And we have some
It's
bigger
just
ones.
after March, your new batch of paper dolls will have a new cast. We're constantly updating, looking for all sorts of different types of photos and nationalities and clothing and just
Thanks for mixing it up.
we just need them to be different, and they're challenging because in order for me to do paper dolls, I need to own the photo.
Yeah.
So I know a lot of people are like, I'll send you a scan of my great grandmother. I'm like,
It's like, how long
you
she
need to
been
send me your
dead?
great grandmother. I need to keep her. Like, yeah, that's a deal breaker. Like, not happening. So just choose one. They're all great. That's the hard part of this. That's really why I said don't open the bag, because it's overwhelming. They are all fun, and they're just weird. Yeah. So it's whatever. So you can have one that stands. No, they're found relatives. They're people that we purchase photos from online or at junk shops, or they're just quirky. She was quirky to me.
Okay, guys, I've
I
narrowed
normally
it
kind of do
down.
steampunk guys, but when she came out, I'm like,
I've narrowed it
she's
down.
funny. I like her. Here's what we're going
The
to do to your
ladies.
paper doll. We're just going
Down.
to give them a little splash of color, and here's what we're going to do.
It's cute
Just
with
adding
his
a
legs
little
crossed.
bit of pink on the cheeks. So all we do is take that distress marker. You're going to like draw a circle on the cheeks to where it looks really not so good.
Why does
Okay, right? That's how we want it. We want it to look not so good. Kind of clown cheeks right now. And then you set it on the table. Just use your
The
finger.
ladies are the
Tap,
cute
tap, tap.
ladies.
Another polish trick. I used to use a Q-tip.
Or the
It's
serious
like you
looking
take
lady.
your finger and just tap. Just lightly tap on the dot till you get it the tint that you want. And just like that, soft, beautiful, tinted cheeks. Tap, tap, tap. So easy. Yep. This is not Russian runway. You are not coloring dresses, socks, bows, hair.
The little boy
This is
or the
cheeks
lady
only.
on her own.
Should you choose to add more color, you can use your distress markers or any other kind of marker, and you can tint this paper doll on your own time. Because I know that's another thing that's addicting, right? You just start coloring them. But I think just adding that little splash of color onto that image photo just gives it a little bit more character. That's great. If you want to add more color, circle that on, dab, dab, dab. I would use the brush end of the marker because that's going to distribute more ink on there. But that's a great little tip. Pretty simple. Everyone do okay with the cheeks? Perfect. So let's talk about putting this together, because as we build this little thing, it's going to have, depending on who you chose, this next part is going to be totally up to you as the maker, where you want this to be. We're going to go in with that flower. And that flower should be dry. It's going to be dry enough for you to handle. You don't need to use the heat tool on that. But let me just show you what we're doing, and then you need to figure out how you have to do it to yours. I lucked out. This wasn't my plan, but I was happy I chose who I chose when I got to this step. You're going to take the scissor and you're going to cut off. If you look at your flower, it kind of gets really fat where it's wrapped, and then it goes into skinny wire. Right at the base of that, you're just going to take your scissors and you're going to cut through the wire. Right? Conic scissors can cut through wire, so you just make a cut. But you got to leave that stump. If you cut through the stump, that's where all the individual flowers come together. And if you cut through that, well, then you have all individual flowers. That's on you. But what we need to do is kind of decide where these flowers go with this person. I was lucky enough that I kind of had this little area right underarm. That's cool. If you don't, and you want it to look like they're holding the flower, you can kind of poke a hole with the scissor or bend it around. But here's ultimately how we attach it. You're simply going to fold that wire somewhere behind the paper doll and just stick one foam square there just to secure it. Okay? This will eventually all go down. But maybe you want the flowers at their feet, right? Maybe you want a flower crown on the top of their head. Whatever. This is on you. But if you need them to hold it and you don't have a hole there, you can use what I call the scissor drill, and that is just use the scissor as a drill. Just drill a hole. Then when you're finished with that, take whatever foam you have left, now you get to use it all, cut it up, do whatever to go on to the back of your paper doll. All right? So figure out where you want your flowers, cut them, poke a hole, hold behind it. secure all your little foam squares. You can cut those foam squares with the tonic scissors, cut them in half. They do have a non-stick coating, so that will allow you to kind of do that. And just get that ready. We don't necessarily need to stick anything down yet, so don't peel anything off. If you did, just try to patch it back up real quick. Everyone doing all right? It's kind of interesting depending on who you chose when you especially when now you get to just impale them with the stem and flowers. Or yourself, yeah, scissor drill. Oh. Collage medium. Yeah, collage medium is a good band-aid. All right.
You could cut this one
They're
in half and
fun.
put
That
one on
little
each leg.
flower really adds so much personality to that little paper doll. And that flower could be anything, but it takes something totally flat and dimensionalizes. So, and if you wanted, let's say you chose a gentleman and you want just like a little flower coming out of the you can cut one of those off and just glue a flower. So here's what I need to kind of explain where this is going, and then you can decide how to assemble it. You'll see what I mean in a second. We're going to take one of the ideology melt caps. Why a melt cap? Why not? It's fun, it's colorful, it has random typography. Who cares? I gave you 2 to choose from. That's your option, A or B. But you're also sitting next to someone, so if you made friends with them, awesome. If you haven't, now's the time to introduce yourself, because they may have one that you like. Here's what I need you to kind of figure out in your head, and then you'll see how we build it. We're going to put the doll and the melt cap together. The melt cap kind of goes behind the doll, or if you have a sitting one, like if you look on your instructions, you'll see like this guy. I had him sitting on it. So you can have them sit on top of the melt cap, and you have the same picture on your instructions if you need a closer look. But kind of figure out where this is going first. Then what you need to do is use collage medium to glue the melt cap. Then you're going to peel off all the foam, and you're going to stick the doll on top of the melt cap. Make sense? Yeah, much easier than trying to like wedge the melt cap under the stuffed paper doll. Okay? You're also just going to glue that metal star with collage medium and that little button. See my pork chop finger on the left? The little button over the button? I thought that was fun. So you have a little button, you glue the button over a button, make it look more like a button.
I don't have a button.
You don't have a button? We'll get you a button. I'll cut it off my shirt if I need to. So,
That's dedication.
that is what I want you to do. This is kind of just creating your own little assemblage right here. Figure out where you want the melt cap to be, figure out where you want your paper doll to be. The melt cap gets glued, the paper doll is foam taped, and then you have that little metal star, and that star can go anywhere. It can go in the middle of the melt cap, it can go on the ruler, it can go wherever you want, and then you have a little button. A little button. Who knew? Finding all the same size buttons.
I don't have a button.
No. You glue the melt cap down first, but you kind of need to figure out where it goes. Like position it first, and then glue the melt cap.
He's really helpful.
Exactly, because you're going to put the melt cap so that it kind of gets layered behind them. But if you stuck the doll down and you tried to shove that down. But maybe you want your person, like I said, to sit on the melt cap. Maybe you want it off to the side. Maybe you're going to do a little inking with your crayon. Maybe I see some people scuffing with sandpaper. Y'all have the technology. I will never judge you for overstretching. Sandpaper, driving over something, scratching with your scissors. It's good. But again, this is a cool thing about assemblage where you might be selling this pack of melt caps in your store and your customer's like, what is that for? Nothing. They're just cool. They're round. They're made out of a thicker board. They have cool typography. They're all unique. But if you look at your collage right now, it just adds this patch of quirkiness, random quirkiness, and that is cool. You can use both of them if you want. Michelle in the back, you're cutting that apart. That's clever. That's cool. You can cut it. You can have it coming in from the side. This is yours. This is where the project, even though we all use the same ingredients, this is where yours is now completely different than anyone else's. Because it's you. It's your personality. And there is that balance when it comes to creating assemblage art. Is there's a balance of having kind of what you want, what you're creating, to be your own. Now, if you want to do some other touches, let's talk about that now as you're building this. There could be some other touches that you can do to this collage to make it your own. Because now that all of your elements are out, let's say you wanted to add a little bit of ink around the edges of your tag. Let's say you looked at your tag and you're like, you know what, I want a little bit of grunge. Easiest way to do that is you can either use your ink pad and your blending brush, go around the edges. You can take your distressed crayon. You can rub that along the edges and use your finger. If you want your flowers to be a little tinted, you can use whatever brown is left on your blending brush and go to the flowers. If you want to go around that vignette frame, that little panel, and you want to add some color. So go in and use either crayon or your ink pad and add any additional distressing you might like. Because that brush is going to allow you to kind of scuff it around. This is where you get to do your thing. The crayon over that collage medium is really nice, really forgiving. You also want to look at your little paper doll. The thing about distressed markers
I don't hear you breathing.
onto a paper doll, it's pretty absorbent, so the color kind of goes away. You can add color, all right. One thing that we started doing, and I say we, but it's really Paula, tinted the paper dolls with a crayon. Why? You've got to come by the booth, the ideology booth, and see the samples. Who knew that crayons on a paper doll was like a dream? Yeah, it's magic. Totally different. But I will say when I did it, it was a little bit more challenging because you don't have as much playtime to do with the marker. Like that crayon wants to grab onto the paper, and then I just found myself just licking the paper doll.
Like, these used to be our blush brushes.
Oh yeah,
I swear.
I started with the cheeks. Then it might have a little bit. I just ended up licking because it's the easiest thing. But I don't want to lick my wrist, I don't want to lick my heart. Something about it. It's the truth. Like it was there. I just yeah. So I just took it off and did it. The crayon's not toxic.
Okay, you guys, we're going to do show and tell in a minute here.
So again, don't
Thank
be
you for
afraid to use
hanging
that
out
crayon.
with
That
us.
crayon makes a big difference, adding that little bit of shading around the edge of the tag. And if you don't want to do brown, maybe you want to add a little glow of white, you have pink pens. You can do the same with that. But this is where in those crayons, it really creates kind of that cool shading, right? It's pretty awesome. And this is the way, in my opinion, only my opinion, not law, but this is the way that I think creating mixed media or assemblage is more relaxing. Because at this point, now you have the time to fine-tune it and finesse it and get the shading exactly right and getting that little bit of grunging. If you focus on it every step of the way, one mixed media project could take a week. Or somebody doesn't want to do it because it's just so overwhelming. So really compartmentalizing the way you put something together. Now you're sitting back, you're fine-tuning. I do see some people going back with the marker and tinting the clothes. That's fine. Whatever you want to do at this point, you can go in and do whatever you want to make it more unique and more you.
I have never done mixed media. This is
You
just
didn't
not
need
my
to think
flavor.
about
So
inking the edge of
this
that
is
paper.
really
If I had
coming out of
inking
my
the edge of that tag,
comfort
you wouldn't know how much to
zone.
add. How much not to add, but now you do. Now that everything is in its place, you can decide what you need. And don't be afraid to add a little bit of that white crayon. It's pretty cool when you
It is just so
So what do
much
you
fun.
guys think so far? Like if Tim came around, are you going to take his class? Or would you take a
Now
class
go.
with us?
Oh, so, yeah, I know. I got glitter all over me.
That's what replay is for.
How you doing?
It's been fun.
Hello, Ruth.
It's like crazy
Anyway, I
seeing
just wanted to show
like
you guys.
folks get so
This is he's
uncomfortable
got
with
these
it.
PowerPoints up on the
And it just
screen
shows you
so
like
you can
how
kind of watch.
we've been trained to like
Thank you.
be
Like I
perfect,
said,
do it
mixed
just
media
so,
is just so
and
not
you
my
lose
thing.
like
So
all of
this was
the
fun for me to come out of my
you lose
comfort
all of
zone.
the play.
It
That
actually
sucks,
turned
you
out. I
know.
don't
So
know if
like
it's
this is
gonna-
really good.
But it turned out really
Okay,
cute.
I'm just like trying to finish this story real quick. I started distressing and like, it's like
this
you
is pretty
zone out,
easy.
zen out,
This
zone
is
out.
This is all now. You want to see Tim?
Take your crayon,
Joyce,
scribble
I'm
it
sure
on
hers
your
too.
craft sheet, spray water on your brush,
I will.
So far,
muck through that crayon, and then you can just glide it along the wood, right? Instead of trying to color that, so you're just going to scribble,
look at this thumb.
scribble,
So much
It's like gangrene Timmy goodness.
and now you can go and
There you go. Now you can see him.
I love this. I love
I gotta fool around with it some more, but and then there's like this little piece here. Oh, there you go.
It is so much fun.
It's like you for
He's a
real,
kid.
you really you don't know the direction it's really gonna go in.
All the distress mediums we're using.
So,
There is
Any
so
you guys
much
got any
fun.
questions or anything?
I kind of
Like,
thought that too, but he's really funny too.
is there anything you missed or like you're just curious
How's
about
everyone doing?
or you're looking forward to? I will say these.
I did, yeah.
I'm mad that I want something
I do
else.
see some people spraying a little oxide spray on that. That's kind of cool. That's awesome. I think it's
There
awesome.
is Mario's cool too. He's a sweetheart.
These I think you're gonna want
This
to
is
have.
all about contrast.
I would
You'll
just
see
say
like the
all
stuff
about
that I gave you.
Get a
I mean, having those whites are
You want to get
just
design.
unique. And I
These are
always
really,
said,
these are good.
this is so new for me. So thank you for all the heart.
Just remember that even at this
Yeah.
point, if
You never
Karen.
know. I might give some of this
You're
away
gonna
to some of you
Oxide
viewers.
spray, you can
Got
still
this.
put that
Get
in
mine after the show. Lots of little stuff.
But this is tricky when you're doing it. I'm not gonna lie, like
final detail.
I can see myself breaking this, but I will bust this sucker open.
Mario for that.
Right.
There's Mario.
We're just going to tie the string through. By tying the string in, we've already tied the string for you. Because there again, one knot was plenty for the day. Okay? You're just going to take that piece of
And I
jute
will
and where
scope
you see
again
the
soon.
bend,
And I
hold,
promise Nikki from
that
Mark
goes
will get.
in the hole.
Okay.
Just like that. Then you're going to take the little knotted end, you're going to bring it up around the top, and you're going to go through that little loop. You're going to snug it up. Just kind of secure it to where you have this. That was the easiest jute and tag ever, right? See, Mario? It was worth it.
Thank you, Mario.
Tie every single one. Can't they do that? I'm like, they could, but at that point in class, they don't care. They're tying around. All right. How'd everyone do? Good? All right. Cool. So this to me is what I love about a project like this, right? If you think about how this evolved, of course, it started out with a Christmas tag. Now, in your instructions on the last page, I provided the link to Paula Cheney's blog because she did a tutorial on the Christmas one. So if you want to see her version and how she put that together, I definitely recommend checking it out. So shout out to Paula for the inspiration of this project. I do think that, again, as a blogger, or a teacher, or a store owner, getting those little nuggets of what you can do to be inspired, it didn't even dawn on me to go back and look at a Christmas project and absolutely replicate it with everyday stuff. And it would work. The whole thing works. And sure, you can shake it up. We can add different things. We can work with Oxide spray or add a stamped image or any other ingredient. But the core of the idea is there. And I think that sometimes that's all we need, right? We need that little jumping off point of what is that idea that I need to pull off, which is really great. So as you are doing the finishing touches, there are some housekeeping things. First of all, I think you need to be very proud of yourself that you pull off a mixed media project for So the stuff that's there, well, there's quite a bit of stuff. So I'm going to have you guys gather your stuff, but I still have some other information that I want to share in the PowerPoint, but right now I'm going to let you guys gather up. So here's what you keep, and here's what you leave. You need to leave the table. The craft sheets stay. Tool-wise, the scissor stays, they need it for the class. The heat tool stays, they need it for the class. The palette knife stays, they need that for class. These shared supplies, which would be the ink spray, the marker, the stamp. One of you can take the ink spray, one of you take the marker, one of you take the stamp, one take the block. We don't really care about those three things. Divvy it up how you want. Just leave those tools there. As far as the Ranger product, all of that Ranger product that you use, that is yours to keep. All of the Crackle, the Oxide, all of that. The glitter duster, yours to keep. Compliments of filled by Mario. For those who follow BTS and you saw him with the funnel and all the glitter dusters, that was for you guys.
Alright, I'm gonna let this keep rolling because I don't know if something
The
happens.
Splat Box is also yours to keep, and I'm going to call Paula up here for demonstration because me, I was just going to tell you just to take the box. Paula's going to tell you how you can take it apart and fold it flat and put a rubber band around it so it goes flat. But my brain doesn't work that way. So you tell me. What's that? The mini mister is yours to keep. Yeah, the collage brush. The collage brush is yours to keep. So after class, listen to this. You have it in baby wipe right now. After class, just go and rinse it when you get next to water, right? So here's how you disassemble your Splat Box. Because it's yours to keep, and that's what the rubber band is for. But you have to. Do you need the microphone? Okay. So you kind of push out the back first to unlock the tabs to where it's open. All right.
Arm wrestle over the stamp later, okay?
You want to hear Paula or just watch Paula?
That's
she just
Paula.
says just watch her.
Hey, everybody, I'm going to wait till you undo it.
So just kind of, if you push the back out a little bit, you'll unlock the tabs. You'll see what I mean. You
Oh,
see it?
Paula, I'm dumb.
If you kind of push out the back, you'll pop open the tabs.
You're smarter than a box.
There you go.
Are you sure?
So she's going to show you how to make it flat. There you go. There's that. Kind of weird.
Okay.
It's just a box. Push out the back.
Do we get to keep the glitter?
Yeah.
Push that out. Okay. You get it?
Everybody got it. Oh, she got it.
There you go. Okay. Now, see, that's what I was like. Okay, you ready, Paula?
Hold on.
They're on. They're ready for you to fly. I can unpop the tabs. She does have a really cool way. You see, isn't that weird? Like, oh, you figured it out. Smarter than the box.
Everybody look at, you got this in front of you, right
like
here.
that.
See these wings? They go behind. So behind, behind. Now you got this.
Everybody see that?
There.
There you go. So far, so good. This is kind of fun.
Fold
Take a minute.
down.
Flip it towards you.
Fold over.
Everyone get it on the first try? Wow.
Fold the side in,
Yeah, I could not.
flap down.
I couldn't. Mine's
It's like Macarena.
Mine says something in my studio for that reason. I was like,
Yep.
Like the box Macarena.
Except your side, you did it.
I don't even know how to do it.
It just folds better. But you had it right.
So while you guys are finishing up, I just want to talk about a couple things real quick, and then we still have some time. So you got time. I want to just talk about products. Because for those that saw Facebook Live out there, there's a lot of great new products in the Ranger booth that I would love for you guys to come by and check out. I'll be demoing in the Ranger booth for 2 days on Saturday and Sunday.
These are theirs.
Yeah.
I have the same demo times both days. I'm on the table in the morning from 9 to 11, and then I come back on the table from 3 to 5. So the first 2 hours, last 2 hours of Saturday and Sunday, I won't be demoing there on
Rubber band. Yeah.
But what I want you to check out are a lot of things. Obviously, the Oxide
Mine
sprays.
ripped
Now,
all open. Is
we
there
have to
another
just see
envelope packet or it
one
won't matter?
thing that these do.
You won't need it. I mean, it doesn't matter if it's
There's a lot of cool things that these sprays can do when they are used in conjunction with other distressed products like inks and sprays, when they're used over different kind of papers like gloss cardstock, mixed media cardstock, watercolor cardstock. So it's definitely worth coming and checking out the demo. There are 12 colors released in the Oxide spray for now. Hopefully many more to follow, but I have no control over that. That would be the power of the Ranger God.
There they are.
But I think that I really wanted to provide a very versatile palette that even if we had these 12 colors for quite a while, that your customers had enough creative options, everything from some bright colors to other colors. These are all shipping in February. So the whole line of lines is ready to ship in February. They have product on the shelf. And again, shout out to the campus I get, shout out to Facebook. For those that were at the Creativation show when the Oxide ink pad was first launched, when we had the ink pad, as exciting as I was for that ink pad, I said, I can't wait till the day we can spray this. But I knew that it may never happen simply because of the complexity. Like, if you just added water to your ink, or you have white, nothing. So I love the fact that we get all of these colors to play around with. Then, of course, this other one. I can't share my excitement enough. It really was something that I asked every single meeting, every single year. I'm like, please, oh, please, oh, please, oh, please, oh, please. And they're like, no, 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 just, you don't need it. You have enough stuff. I'm like, but I love permanent ink, and I know that archival, there's a lot of great colors, but there's just nothing like the distressed palette, especially if you're working with other distressed colors, right? If I'm stamping in a red, I would prefer barn door over a bright red. And I think that now a lot of customers are really into the whole space saving thing. So I was okay with having this mini size. The mini size archival, as you can see, it's not as dinky as an ink cube. So even if your stamp is a little bit bigger, it's still very functional. And the nice thing, of course, is that re-inkers are also released at the same time. So even though these pads are only available small, selling your customers the re-inkers right away, that's important because that's what's going to give them the largest sizes. Now these are in sets. So you see kits 1, 2, and 3. I kind of broke it down into warm, cool, and dirty.
Yeah.
You know, there's people that are just going to want the colors because they just want to stamp it in brown and black and gray. And like, that's me, I'm good. But then there's those that are going to want the brighter neutral colors. That's going to be warm, or there's moody colors that are cool. So, or just all 12. Now, Ranger does have a tin for this. Another thing to keep in mind as a store owner, these won't fit in the distress tin. They fit in archival tin. That's a little bit longer, but got those same kind of grooves. So, another important upsell to your customers. Then we get into these guys. Again, probably the most curious demo that I think you're going to want to check out, because alcohol pearls, we really haven't had anything from an ink product that's been new to the alcohol world. And let's face it, over the last year and a half at that, alcohol inks have just, oh my gosh, from people painting and doing resin pours and all of these crazy things that they're doing with inks. It is awesome. It is a great medium. And if you are looking for things well beyond the background, you can go on YouTube or Instagram and see artists from all over the world that do the most amazing things with alcohol ink. And there are a lot of great colors to work with. There's mixative, there's blending solution. But the introduction of pearls was very unique. This was the ability to actually create an additive that became part of the ink, right? Because so many years for alcohol inks, we have the inks, which are translucent. We have the mixatives, which are pigment, and when you put them together, they fight, they break apart, which is cool. That's what we wanted them to do. They wanted to marbleize. That's not the case with these inks. These inks stay as a pearlized ink. That pearl is used to that color wherever it goes. So you can still use these with mixatives. You can still use these with alcohol inks. You can still use these with blending solutions, but you get this pearlescent sheen that is the color of the ink. That's another thing that's really important. So even if you go out to your store or you have a YouTube channel or a blog, if you happen to see my Facebook Live, right away I needed to show the difference, because they're thinking there's a pearl mixative, and I can just do my own by adding pearl mixative to the ink. Pearl mixative is only white. You add it over this ink, it whites it out. This really allows you to create this pearlescent shimmer throughout your artwork. So even if you're going to only open a few colors in your shop to demo, you need to show that comparison. But more importantly, you'll come by and see the demos, I'm sure you will. Depending on the substrate you work on, it also changes. These can be used completely different on UPO than they can on alcohol ink cardstock. Another important factor of these pearls, because it does contain a pigment, it contains mica, this does not work well with lifting. I know that a lot of people are using the alcohol lifting. It's probably, Mario said, one of the most asked questions throughout Facebook Live was, will this work with the lifting? It works a little bit because it does lift the dye component of this product, but it will not lift through that pearl layer. So it's not going to give them, I believe, it's not going to give them the effect that they want. Another important thing to educate. If you mix it with the inks, no problem. Right? If you use a little bit of pearl with enough alcohol ink, you'll be able to lift through this as well. So let's talk about substrates. Another exciting thing, because let's face it, if we're going to sell ink, especially alcohol ink, we need to give people more things to ink. Okay? UPO is great. Glossy cardstock, great. But having these new substrates is very different. Now, you can tell by the ginormous thumbnail right here exactly what they are, but I'll call them out. One is a black cardstock. Now, this black cardstock was really more designed for Sharon. If you haven't been by the Ranger booth in the last few shows, Sharon Harris, she does some beautiful painting with alcohol ink. She does a lot of stuff with snow cap, and she likes that black substrate. I don't really use alcohol ink on a black surface, even the pearls, because remember the alcohol pearls, the dye is still translucent, the pearl is the only thing opaque. So they're like, oh, I can alcohol ink the pearls on black. All you're left with is pearl, because all your ink color is gone. But I love this black cardstock for matting cards, putting a mat behind my alcohol cardstock. Even if you come by the booth just to feel the paper, that's all you really need. It's like this rubbery, suede black paper. You might have felt it before on stationery. If you've ever felt a black cardstock that felt like rubber, like on a journal cover, it's that. It's that paper, because I felt it on, like, I think it was the cover of a journal.
Yeah,
like,
that is
this paper? Is this rubber?
awesome.
Whatever this is, I want this, because it's like beautiful black mat, and when you use it on a card, it's very thick. It's thicker than cardstock, so it almost acts like a mat board for a card or a stamped image. One of my favorites. Then we have brushed metallic. Now there's a ton of metallic. Obviously I have metallic craft stock, I have foil cardstock. This brushed silver is very cool because it gives it that scratchy finish already. So if you do a lot of steampunk or a lot of industrial, it's a great background. Even if you want a soft metallic without that bright reflection, that one's really cool. I would have to say, surprisingly, one of my favorites is the Silver Sparkle. And I would say that because I had Deco and ideology, I was kind of over the whole glitter thing. But this isn't even a glitter paper. This is even finer than Deco sheet. It's a tiny little sparkle infused into the paper. It's not a glitter. It's not a texture. It's an ink. But when you alcohol ink this stuff, it looks like rainbow glitter everywhere under the surface. And when you emboss this cardstock does not break in an embossing folder. So you know, like a lot of times on a foil paper, if you run it through a folder, you get those cracks or those breaks. Yeah. This stuff doesn't. So definitely want to come by and see the samples for that. It is pretty cool. Then on the bottom, this is for the artists. This is for the store that have that mixed media artist that comes in that wants something to work on, especially with alcohol ink. These are hardcore panels. For those that might be familiar with Masterpiece, they are manufacturer of canvas boards and cradle boards and things like that. We met them at an art show, and he had this material that he brought by. He's like, I have this thing that I have, but I don't sell it because I don't know what to do with it, but your inks look like it would work on this. And that's exactly what it is. It's a vinyl-covered masonite board. So the core of it's actually wood. It's got this almost lightly textured vinyl on both sides. So if you wanted to work with it, you could work on either side. But for a painter or an inker, fantastic, because you can use your alcohol inks work on this, lip ink works on this, archival ink works on this. It's almost like a Yugo, but not totally, because it does have a little bit of texture. But it provides a really great substrate for artists that want to just create that painting and be done, right? They can hang it up with a clip. They don't, because that's been a big struggle. When I went back and read Facebook Live, a lot of people that use UFO, you paint this, but now you have to mat it, mount it, frame it, because it's still just a flimsy piece of paper. And this gives them that substrate. So I think it's always great to really look at the audience out there and how they're using a product and try to come to market with something that I think will supply that need. And these hardcore, they're available in a multi-pack of little squares, little 4x4s, 5x7 rectangles, and then a multi-pack of large and small, both square and rectangle, depending on your artist that is in it. So those are the new products. Did you guys enjoy the class? Yeah, I think you guys did amazingly well. So all of that stuff is yours to keep, but they're also going to pass out Ranger bags. And in that bag, I don't know what's in there what's in there besides, is there anything from Ranger, just the stuff we put in?
The bag and the apron are
Perfect.
Ranger.
So the bag and apron from Ranger, but in there, you're going to also see that there is the remaining pack of your ephemera. Simply everything that you didn't use because you couldn't be trusted given the whole pack. But then there's also a new mini mixed media stamp set from Stampers Anonymous. That you're going to have. And so that's going to give you a bag to put your Splat Box and all of your other stuff back in. So again, I want to thank you guys for coming.
These are the ones I wanted, you guys. Oh my God, and the ephemera.
Let's ask him if they have an
Mario, here you go. We know you're a genius. Thank you. Appreciate you helping me. Oh, that's so good.
I'm so excited you have to find that stamp because I don't have it in my bag.
It has to be because I don't have it.
Well, I don't have it.
Let me get up here. Okay, you guys.
So ask if there's an extra one.
I know my stuff is like, oh, I think it was just the trash I was collecting. Oh, that's fine. I'll take that. I'm going to go up here really quick. You guys.
Okay, we have a question. She said that one of us can take the stamp, but our stamp.
I will. I just want to come up here. I would like a picture. Boy, maybe she'll take a picture for me. But I would like just to get Tim to say hi to all of y'all too, because it's like I want a picture, but I want my friends to be on here too. So maybe. But it's really cool. It's the let me see. So there's the bag, and then in there, there's like so many cool things. Look at her cool piece. I'm showing off your piece of Periscope friend. Oh, look at he's holding that. I should have told him that. Okay, I'm gonna have to like rip that off because that's awesome. Do it again. Yes, we'll play all over. Alright.
It's nice, right?
Ask him what to do. Okay. I'm gonna see.
Joy, can you bring me?
What you need?
I'm trying to think what I want.
Signing stuff?
I don't know. I just wanted you to get me my bag over here. That's okay. Don't worry about it. I'll get it. Run. Selfies, yeah, I know that's kind of like more fun.
I think every class will be like that, though. People just want to take pictures.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, because it's like, you know, how often
come
do you
all
get
this
to do it?
way.
Yeah, exactly. So you guys, what do you think? Isn't he awesome? Like that's what I'm talking about. Like if you're gonna have my butt up at this time of the morning, like bring it. He brought it. It was brought in. I feel like too, like it's good to have that. I don't want to say pressure, but like someone's like get with it, and he's like get on the ball, like move it, do it, done. It's like focus in on your art and make it happen. And so that I really am super excited about. Just like putting myself like, all right, I've got this project, let's do it. Y'all know how long I be taking. I mean, we be talking too, but did y'all learn any new techniques? Oh, Blair. I'm trying to be looking like your little mini-me. Or her cute little bow. They were so cute together. I don't know. Oh, and what's your name?
It's Matt.
Matt? All right, Matt. This is Matt.
Hello.
This is Periscope. I don't know if you've done live streaming on Periscope. And what's your favorite? What are you looking forward to most?
The alcohol inks.
Yeah, alcohol inks. I love it because he's right. Like I'm always screwing with my mixatives and like, dang, why can't I just get them to like pass their qualities on?
I think he has
Got Hedgehog Hollow here. Alexandra, hi on Periscope. all the hipsters, all the hip people. This is cool. Joy, you want to get your picture? Let's see.
I'm gonna take the pictures.
Okay, you guys. Let me see if I can get to do this. Do you want me to take? Yeah. Maybe you could take us a selfie. I want to get him on Periscope so they see him on Periscope.
No, I just want to shut this off so it doesn't keep cooking you guys in the video. There's a lot of heat coming out of it.
You would get a picture of all of us. Can you forward it while you're on Skype?
It's on scope. You have to take the picture. I have to scope, so. Can we see your projects? Huh? This is Periscope. So it's a live streaming app. You guys should totally join. We have like a whole crafty community. But let's see what you did.
This is not mine. This is his.
These are your. This is it. I used them too.
Yeah.
Okay,
This
but I
is
love how
mine.
you did it.
So a boy and a girl.
You guys, look at how good they
Oh,
did.
look at that. I love the little girl sitting.
And your crackle is so perfect. Very nice. Oh, I should have put mine in his hands. Why did I not think that's genius?
Oh, this
Okay, but
is
that's
not.
the other
This is
thing.
not my one.
Cross over to the dark side, there's no
Yeah,
turning
that's
back.
really
I took the wrong one.
Okay, here he is. Here he is, you guys. I'm not holding everybody up, but you can't just make it like seriously. You try so hard and it doesn't come out. It doesn't come out how you want. So I think that's the trick.
You want to go first?
So I can take your picture first, and then I can do.
Hi, Periscopers.
Joy.
Here, I can take it.
That's it.
Oh, I got it. Selfie.
Oh, selfie. Okay, good. I was thinking to. Yeah, that's how I was gonna do. But Valeria says, "Hey, Joy." Karen says, "Hi." So we'll see. They've got like so many cool projects, and like
I love the glitter on the dress.
this is really nice.
Yep.
He's hysterical.
You can take your drawer for me. Sure.
Like I'm gonna just stay on scope, but
Take it on here and then I'll
yeah.
send it to you.
Can we get a picture of the three of us? Sure.
He's like, just like my husband, his arms are long enough. So my
Yeah,
husband, I married you because you can get stuff off the
Steady
top.
your hand. I'm shaking.
Take good selfies. You wanna go? You go.
No, I did. Sure.
I keep flipping it. I'm sorry, y'all. Like, at least I'm not shaking. I should be probably, but.
Right in the morning.
Can you go first and get your selfie so I can grab my project? Oh, you did? Are you, that's right. Oh, Tim, I'm on Periscope.
Oh,
This is
hey.
our Periscope
Hey,
community.
everyone.
Please say hi, Karen, because she'll die.
Hi, Karen.
Okay,
Hi.
but
See,
we
you
really
did your
enjoy.
job.
Okay, Joey, could you take a picture of us?
Yeah,
All right,
sure.
you guys.
Ready? Got it.
Thank you so much. That was like awesome. Appreciate it.
Did Karen get her shout out?
Karen says I'd be shaking in my shoes.
I was shaking.
And he smells good. You can't be mad at a man smells good. I'm just saying. That was just a PS. You know, like back in the 80s, you had some cool water. You'd be like, ooh, he got some cool water on. Just, yeah. Okay, y'all, that was fun. Like, it means, like, I'm about to cry now. I'm not crying, I'm stupid. Like, I really love, like, that y'all are here with us. And he does smell good. No, like, I'm seriously, like, this is fun. I'm glad now I shake after, like, when it's with y'all. I'm so happy y'all, like, were able to, I'm like, y'all know I have, like, all these technology problems. I'm gonna have to have some Visine. But like, I'm so happy y'all were able to share this with us. It's like, this is the stuff this is why we love crops. This is why we like craft retreats, because it's nothing like the energy of like your friends and being around all the coolness. And so I really am so happy that y'all like made it through with me and that the signal didn't cut out. And I don't know, this was cool. So I'm gonna run off to another class, like a business class really quick. I do have Altanu later, so I'll probably be nervous then because I gotta like use a stamp positioner, but just letting y'all know. All right, love you guys. I'm gonna run. I'll be back on in just a few. Let me like find something pretty for you to look at. Let's look at the new stamp set, okay? And some ephemera. Let's do that. All right, my friends, we shall meet again.